Da da da! What's my good cheer? Welcome, welcome, everybody. Let's give YouTube a couple of minutes, get those notifications out. And in the meantime, if you've never met me before, hi, I'm Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside, and it kind of looks like I've been outside rolling around in the grass, doesn't it? But this is something that I've really come to appreciate about my live shows is that no matter what the state that I'm in, and I always try to keep it positive, it's important in this world where there is so much aggravation, so much. We were talking sandpaper yesterday, rubbing each other not well, that it's really important for us to kind of find a happy medium because that's what it is, right? Because you either go into the extremes or you're going into so much of that fear that just stops you in the track or doesn't make you want to participate in life, right? And so it's in that medium, in that middle there, that we can possibly, I don't know, find something for ourselves, find something that will work in a way that we don't quite understand sometimes, but feeling comfortable in whatever that is, it makes it so it's not agitating. It's not, because it's in the question, isn't it? It's in those things that we don't understand, those things that we're kind of like, oh my goodness, what next, right? We were talking last week about English horror movies. They make the worst ghost movies and horror movies and stuff, but what they do fantastically is they create the feeling. They create the feeling with the music, and they'll get that scary music, and they'll carry it on for 5 minutes around corners and stuff, and then here comes the climax, and then it's just fizzling out, right? Because it was only the anticipation that the music was giving me that made it so that I appreciated it, and then in the end, I just felt like I was just ripped off. You know what I mean? Because visually, right? They didn't connect. They didn't, right? In my mind, they didn't get it right. And let me just turn off my air conditioner here. Okay, there. Much better. And you can guarantee I lost track on that one. I don't think I'll be able to get on the right branch with this one. Okay, you guys. Hi. We'll go on to the next thing. I had all kinds of notes today, all kinds of topic ideas. That's usually something I come across and it's really amazing, or I got an amazing insight, or I see progress in others. And it is in that we're just gonna stop again, you guys. I live behind a fire station. We're gonna send some good cheer out to the fire truck and the paramedics. Let's hope they get to their destination quick without any hassles. Find that it's a false alarm and turn around and go right back to the station. Okay, guys, shall we start over? We'll get something coming through today. Okay, well, let's just start off with my distraction battle plan. I'm telling you, I never recognized. I knew I was a bit of a procrastinator. I did know that. And I thought that maybe because, when I procrastinate, that I'm jumping up and I'm doing things that also need to be done. But the thing that I said I wanted to do, and you guys know when I commit to things, it has to be done. And then I disappoint myself every single every single day. Only shortly, only for a moment. Then I pick myself up, right? A little, and then we're right back at it again. It is in the lessons for me, this in this moment in time is that's the work for me. And I beat myself up sometimes because it's the best job ever, right? I get to go through a lot of amazing ideas, a lot of different perspectives. I get to resolve a lot of questions in my own life, and that's the truth. And lots of it comes from a time that I would never have recognized that that's where it might have come from, right? And I'm not too sure if that's actually true, but yeah, it has to be, right? I knew some of the experiences in my life may have caused issues, but in that depth, right? That depth and that interconnection of everything, that it actually affects everything. So I'm so grateful to be able to do what I love and looking for answers. And it just starts with one little bit. Are you kidding me? I didn't know that. I'm 50 years old and I never knew that before. Not 50 anymore, but right. And then you just feel like a dummy in that. Like, how could I have been so blind? And then you start asking yourself these questions. And for me, it's not in a negative beat myself up kind of way. I'm actually curious because these are questions I've asked my entire life. And then all of a sudden, I have the access to Google that I don't have to ask people. I didn't even have the inkling that there was something to ask, right? I am so grateful for the lessons that came across my path. And, this digital age is going to do something pretty amazing. And people, they're all huffing and puffing and keeping their kids off a line, and right. And sometimes that can be in good parentship in doing something like that when the kids are entertaining themselves. But there's a time and a place. And I am not worried in any way about the content that comes across my path. I mean, I know I'm not a child, right? Sometimes I feel like I am because it's like a candy store, right? It's like any question I ever had, any problem I ever had, any problem I ever saw in somebody else, right? Or even have things in my life happen. You go, why? And then all of a sudden, right? The answers are just right there, just being ready to serve to me. I came across some content today. Oh, I'd like to give credit. I can't remember who it was, but they said, in this digital age, we are being served up so much AI. And this has been a conversation for lots of times, especially in the tie in of universal wage, right? So this isn't a new conversation, but I think it's becoming more prevalent and more noticeable in the effects that it's having on the kids. And that's right. And that's the thing. They're always the first to walk into that, you know, just like all of us sometimes in our generation, we have that opportunity and that choice. And I was going to kind of roll back before I got into this, but we're going to stop again and throw some good cheer to the fire truck or ambulance or paramedics that are about to go by my apartment. It was It was the small fire truck, so it's an additional fire truck. Hopefully they get to their destination. Really, it's a false alarm. They didn't need such a big truck, and the big truck's going off somewhere else, and the little one's going to take care of business. There you go. Okay, you guys, let's draw it in. So I was taking in a lot of content today, but at the same time, right, I have an opening to fill for myself. And uh, and when I say it like that, it's because I want to fill it well. I want to make sure that even if it's not in, right, in social media or in thought leadership or working in emotions, that it is a job that serves, right? Like the last job I had, right? I served a lot of honorable. I served my community, understanding that the vulnerable are the middle class now. And that's just a fact of life that a lot of people don't want to recognize, right? And it's in that preparedness, that preparedness that we get to make those choices. Things are changing, and this is what I wanted to talk about a little bit today, was this idea of change. It is in the air. There's some good change and there's some uncomfortable change. While in fact, any kind of change is uncomfortable in the beginning, isn't it? That's why we don't pursue change. That's why we don't rock the boat. This is why we don't have a voice and offer up in those conversations, because, right, that's just too much. But it's in those baby steps, those little things that we can do, right? Whether it's shooting off an email or having a conversation, or sometimes it's just in letting it go and understanding that there's nothing we can do about something. And because we're the people that we are, we still feel bad about that, don't we? We feel bad about that. But at the same time, there has to be a little bit of understanding. And where I wrote it down yesterday about understanding our capacity, right? I know for myself, if you go past my capacity, I'm not quite sure what my capacity is, but there are aspects down those side branches where I do have capacities, where I do have boundaries and stuff. And, when I can't go past that, right? When I've just had it with this and I just not one more, right? It's time for some metal detecting videos or some bottle digging videos, right? And I've lost it again. Wow. I've been doing that quite a bit. Quite a bit, I would say, for the past week in my conversations. It's always something that I've done, but also at the same time, I understand and I'm taking note of how late I've been doing my lives at night. It seems like it's a nice way to end my day in coming in, but also at the same time, I know I'm not coming in with the same energy, but sometimes that's okay. It's nighttime, it's evening, it's bedtime, right? Right? And sometimes that time of the night needs to be a little bit softer, a little bit more ASMR. You know what I mean? That it is just kind of a nice kind of time to do my lives, because I understand that a lot of people, they do have problems sleeping, have problems in coming down from the overexcitement of things that sometimes, right? There are systems that we put in place to help draw us down, to help bring us down, like my metal detecting videos or my well, my bottle digging videos. I stay mostly in the mindset. I stay mostly in the movement forward and in being well beings, in serving myself, but at the same time in those goals and dreams and ambitions that I have. Yes, it's 63 years old. It makes life fun, right? Right? You're not imposing, you're not dragging people down, right? If you're doing it at a good pace for yourself, that can be good enough. If you're just always, right, at it all the time, it's when you slack off and it's when it becomes comfortable or it just seems like, what's the point? And we can easily give ourselves those outs. I have done it many, 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 many times. I haven't failed myself too many times, but I have failed myself there, right? One thing I pride myself is in my consistency, because I'm at that point now where there are people who look forward to my big bright smile, right? That maybe they are also winding down their day, and they find that just kind of hanging out with me. And whether there's a lesson in that, you guys know there always is. And you know where I got that idea? My uncle, um, my Uncle Ted, who really wasn't my uncle. He was my mother's cousin, but on her side, family was pretty tight. And he was a traveling he was a traveling pastor, and his job was to go to different churches, different denominations, and build up the congregation. And he used to pick up the neighborhood kids and all the parents and stuff, and we go to church. But what was I saying that I where did I learn that from? Oh yes, he had this one stint at the Salvation Army downtown in Vancouver, and we would go there. And I think every weekday, for a couple of weeks we went there, and we cooked dinner for the homeless and the drug addicts and the alcoholics. And but one thing I really took note of is, right, being the little fat kid, I couldn't wait for dinner because, well, obviously we were eating also. But I don't know what it is, but I took note of the fact that people would actually sit there in the benches in the pews, drunk and high and destitute, and they would sit through the lessons that were my Uncle Ted were divvying out. And I was mesmerized because for me, that looked like power. It looked like, right? It looked like, well, maybe it was in the control, right? Because for me now, when I come in and I do my spiel that way, I'm thinking of my uncle, and he always divvied out the lesson in a friendly, casual manner, but he always served Jesus before he served dinner. And I just remembered being a little chubby kid just sitting there and wondering what was for dessert or bananas or oranges or whatever it was that they were offering, right? And I was thinking, you know what? That's pretty amazing because that's the power that you have over the congregation, a congregation that might not have been, probably would not have been there if it wasn't for the dinner, right? And that's an unfortunate truth, but it's a truth nonetheless. And I thought that was pretty. I thought that was pretty amazing, and I didn't want to serve that up because, understand your first 5 seconds is going to dictate who's going to give you another 5 seconds. But for me, I like to mix it. I like to, it's sometimes relevant in the topic that we're talking about, but sometimes it's just in the topic itself and how it is presented, right? And in the end, you still get the din din, right? This is the way that I feel. And in mixing it up in between, it doesn't become too much, right? My sister once told me I was too preachy, and I don't want to be preachy in any way. That is not my intent. But the idea is when you're trying to get a message across, right? It is in that practice. And I find for myself just in being comfortable, right? And genuine, that for myself, it's easier for me to serve it that way, right? It doesn't necessarily mean it lands well, but it is in that consistency and practice of always showing up that I get better at it. And, right, maybe possibly doesn't get too painfully uncomfortable for any of us, right? Okay, you guys, because I lost where I was at a couple of times tonight, I know I'm tired, and I'm going to just grab my cards here. We're going to grab a word and then we're going to just play with it for a couple of minutes. First perspective, right? First thing that comes to my mind, that's what we'll run with. I pulled a few cards for me today, and it really amazes me sometimes, how I get the most perfect message for the moment. And, you know, I know it is what I read into it. And no matter what the word is, right, it can easily fit into a conversation, experience, or story somewheres along the line. But whether I'm the one to be serving that, I don't know. But I'm going to give it my best shot in the moment, only because I know if I fail, if I miss that target, that I'll be back. It's today Friday. I'll be back tomorrow. I'll be back tomorrow and I'll have another shot. Okay, you guys, let's grab a card here. If you don't know, these are my cards. 54 powerful words. They are action words, right? I think most of them are action words. And they're just words themselves, but they're powerful words. There are words that we can use to make movement in that. Oh, when I came in tonight, I was saying, today that I had two tasks. I had a list of gratefulnesses to write down, which I have not done yet. And also, there was one other thing that I had to do. Oh, my insights, right? I haven't finished my insights on all my cards, so I wanted to get that done too, so I can put my book away, right? So I don't have to reference what in the moment was the inspiration uh, that we were attaching to the word. So, yeah, and neither one of those did I get done. Yeah. didn't. It is what it is. And that's what I can say. And it's not like I leave myself open. It's not like I wasn't working in it and taking in the lessons and, you know, to some perspective, right? It might not be enough, but I know my capacity in the moment and I honor that capacity. And it's not a cop out, it's a matter of not being overwhelmed, and it's about enjoying what I'm doing, right? Because and I've done that. Oh my goodness, I was doing copyright on Instagram, and sometimes I would start my post, early in the afternoon, and then at 2 o'clock in the morning, I was still working on it, but working on it so bad that I was tired that I couldn't get it right. And then I would just post whatever I had. I just posted it, and then I would go to bed, and then I would wake up in the morning, and I would go back in, and I would have a clearer mind and I had more energy, and I would re-edit it. And that's how I committed it. And I did that every single day. Well, I don't know how long I did that. I've done a few different things, trying them out, see what I like. And I do like writing, and especially in a game when we're talking about AI. I do like Grammarly. I do like the fact that, that I can write and I can send emails and stuff, and then that availability to me to have those spelling errors and grammar issues and the way sentences are built, have that all corrected. I can't wait to afford to buy a premium plan, right? And it's not that much. I think it's like $75 for the whole year. And you can pretty much write a great book for that $75. That's how easy Grammarly makes it. Okay, you guys, let's just get into the card here. The first perspective that comes to my mind, the first thought, we'll just run with that. And it will be the card in the front. So let's get that pulled away. Here it is. A little nervous tonight. I'm never nervous about the cards. Never am. It doesn't mean I always get it right, the message, right? But yeah, today, what do we got here? Experience. That's a good one. I don't think, since having these 54 powerful word cards ready, that I've pulled this card yet. First thing comes to my mind. Okay, we're talking about experience. Oh, a couple minutes. Okay, so today I was learning a little bit about learning. Remember what I said? I was trying to work on my cards today, and the word that I got was learning. So I went into my book right here, and I didn't get it. And there have been a couple of words where I didn't get it, but I promised myself not to change it, because even though it's not pertinent now, maybe in the future it's going to mean something, and mean something very, very important. So I'm not inclined to change them. But maybe it is in my own growth since writing my thoughts on this word learning. I decided it didn't work for me. I wanted to do it again. So I got out my other scrapbook, and I have a few of them here. I got it. It was really quick and stuff. Lots of crossouts and mistakes and stuff. But that, I'm looking at that and I'm saying, oh, I wrote that out. But if I had done that, right, online here, Grammarly would have picked that all up and corrected that, and it would have been even faster. Sometimes in the experience, okay? This is what I was going to say about this word here. In the experience, we learn, right? We It's something I worry about, the digital age, because we're all online. We're working online, we're playing online, we're living online, and it is causing issues along the way. But again, it's in our choices, the content that we can bring on for ourselves, and hopefully we can lessen the detriment of what could happen to us, which we still don't know because this is still like 10 years old. It's so new, but we're moving so fast in that. Okay, so let's read what this says before I go into it. Experience paired with knowledge offers up gifts. And that's what I was going to lead right into, right? The lessons, the learning, right? This comes from the experience. And again, if we're looking back at my age and where I woke up to some of these ideas in those 57 years, right? I have had a gazillion jobs, a few great relationships, a few stinker relationships, and probably like sandpaper to a few along the way too. And as difficult and as um, sometimes hurtful, sometimes in the betrayal, there's that little bit of shut down and that little bit of back off. It's like you're not supposed to draw away so much that we're not interacting with others, that we are not participating in our lives. And sometimes, right, we get stuck in that pain of the experience, right? But that experience, even if it's painful, it offers up lessons, right? Maybe not in the moment, right? Maybe in the moment, all it's doing for you is keeping you preoccupied so you don't have your mind on what really is tearing you apart in the moment. But you're getting that ball rolling. It is in the experience that we get to learn change, which is what I wanted to talk to you tonight. But we're heading out the door. Maybe we'll go back into the word change. Change is brought about by the choices that we make. And even if we don't have a say in what's happening, right? We have choices within what's happening. We always have choices. We don't always make those choices because, again, right? Some of us think that things are going to blow up by our touch, that we're going to drop it, it's going to shatter to a million pieces. Somebody's going to take it away from us. But for whatever the reason, right, it is in the experience that we get to find answers, right? Like I said, when I came into problems, answers to those questions that we always had. And, you know, every moment is an opportunity to make a choice that promotes change. It doesn't have to be a 360, which means right back to the beginning, right? Maybe it's a 180, right? That might not be fun either because that's on the other end of the spectrum. But if you're not doing well in the moment, the other end of the spectrum looks pretty good too, doesn't it? Okay. Experience paired with knowledge offers up gifts. It's in my experience, that accumulation of all those jobs that I had, all those relationships I had, all those conversations I had, all those betrayals I had, all those friendships I had, all those lessons that I had. It was and is a crazy experience, right? But paired with knowledge, it offers up gifts. And I don't even have to look at it that way because I believe in it that way. I experience it in that way. And I would have to say that's pretty that's pretty darn amazing considering, you know, what it could have been, right? Maybe what it should have been, right? Okay, you guys, that's my good cheer. I'm gonna get something to drink and then we're gonna call it a night. See you tomorrow. Bye.